I'm John Kraft, and we're here with
Jake Lee.
Jake Lee, the Kankakee County Auditor.
Yes, sir.
So you were elected, right?
Yes, yes.
When did you take office?
I took office December 1st, 2016.
Was that a contested election?
Yes, yeah. I ran against the 12-year incumbent. It was my first time pursuing political office, and frankly, I didn't think I would win, but I won, and here we are.
You won, and now you're here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question. There's an issue, apparently, and we've heard about with Kankakee County and another county. I know McHenry County has similar issues with the auditor's duties, the mandated duties according to the statute. Are you able to perform? Let me rephrase that. I know you're able to perform. Are you permitted to perform your mandated duties?
Not all of them, no. The county board, just for historical context, if I may, the county board in 2003, the then auditor, who's now the finance director, Mr. Steve McCarty, went to the county board and told them they needed to separate the office. Specifically duty in 1006 of the statute, which is the general accounting duties. And the county board did that at the time and separated the office, and then Mr. McCarty stepped into the role of finance director and took staff and budget along with him. The elected office was vacant for a few months, and then my predecessor was appointed and then subsequently elected 3 times. And then when I got elected in 2016, I obviously inherited the first year budget, and then the subsequent budgets were handed down from the county board. Those budgets only fund the elected official and 1 employee's salary, along with a few operational things such as pens, paper, notebooks, etc. And so as a result of that budget and the structural impediments in terms of the process, we are unable to perform all of our statutory duties because some of them are being performed by other people.
Okay, so Kankakee has a population, Kankakee County has a population of around 110,000.
Yes, that's correct.
So when was the finance department established in relation to when you became elected?
It was established 13 years before I became elected.
Okay. And okay, so I have the statute,
Uh-huh.
a copy of the statute of duties of the auditor right here.
Okay.
So, section 3-1005, we can start with that. It says that your duties shall be audit all claims against the county, recommend to the board the payment and rejection of claims. You can do that, right?
Mostly. What's interesting is that from our process, there are electronic transfers that take place that we never see the materials behind that. An example are the stamp collections that go to the state of Illinois from the county recorder's office. They're roughly $27,000 or so per month. We never see any of that information regarding that transfer. It just happens. So that is a claim. That is a claim against the county. That is an accounts payable. We don't see it. There's a lot of payroll information that happens and transactions that take place that we do not see. So we audit most, not all, and I think that's a bit of a challenge.
So the statute says you have to audit all of them.
That's correct.
Okay. But because you're not getting the information, you don't have the ability
To audit
to
all.
audit. Okay.
We audit most. Yeah.
Okay, number B, collect, analyze, preserve statistical and financial information with respect to the cost and operation of facilities owned by the county, you're able to do that one?
Well, currently the finance department does that as part of the comprehensive annual financial report. Counties or governments are not required to publish that report, but if you do publish it, there are certain component parts that it must have. The required statistical information, those tables that are in the back of that report, is all collected by the finance department, compiled by the finance department, preserved by the finance department. So we are impeded from doing that.
So because the information's in the finance department?
That's correct.
Okay. C, approve orders for supplies issued by various county officers before orders are placed.
No, the county officers place the orders whenever they want, and then will submit a claim for payment to the auditor's office. So
that one goes through you and not the finance department?
No, that one doesn't go through anyone. That happens at the department level. And the way you should do that is governments generally operate under what's called encumbrance accounting, and that is basically budgetary accounting. And so they would issue POs before someone places a purchase in order to fulfill that statute. But we don't do that in this county, so we don't fulfill that statute either.
Okay, what is that? D, maintain a file of all contracts.
Yeah, so we rarely get a copy of the contracts that the county enters into. The county clerk has that same statute, and so generally speaking, most of the contracts are with the county clerk, and we'll go to the county clerk's website when we need to.
Okay, E, 1005E, quarterly report to the county board.
So we report quarterly to the county board. We're able to do that. The parts that get a little dicey are when it talks about expenditures estimated, obligations unpaid. Those would be what you call in accounting contingent liabilities. We rarely know what any of those are. All of that information is accounted for and transacted in the finance department.
But are you supposed to know what? Yeah, because
Yes.
that's your job, not theirs.
That's correct. We are supposed to know, we're supposed to be informed of those things so that we can report on it, but unfortunately that information is not shared.
Do you have the receipts of all the officers and departments to audit?
The county treasurer collects all of that. We would be able to receive it if we ask for it, so the county treasurer has been
Okay.
cooperative, so yes.
G, maintain a continuous internal audit of the operations of financial records. You shall have access to all records, documents, and resources necessary for the discharge of this responsibility. Do you have access to all those records?
Not to all, no. Again, it's most, but definitely not all.
And H, audit the inventory of all real and personal property owned by the county.
Inventory is, the listing is housed in the finance department on a standalone computer. And of course, we don't have keys or anything like that to the finance department.
Can you FOIA that information?
We probably could FOIA it. I haven't tried to FOIA it. The county, about a year and a half ago, was supposed to supply us with an inventory listing at the time they renewed their insurance, but that never happened.
I FOIA'd for it a couple days ago, so I'll see what they provide. I, audit the documentation records and basis for amounts billed to the county maintained by county vendors and the agreements.
Yeah, so a lot of times when we look at that one, it is usually we're looking for underlying, like we get the claim for payment, usually an invoice or something. And so we will ask for the underlying contract, agreement, or whatever that the vendor is billing off of. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. But we definitely attempt to do that one.
Oh, who has that information?
Usually, the finance department or county administration would have any of that.
Okay. So now to your additional duties on section 3-1006.
Yes.
It says, in addition to the previous duties, you shall, and I understand, now let's back up. There was a bill presented last year,
Yes.
House Bill
3680.
3680, I'm looking for it, I have a copy of it here. House Bill 3680, that was presented, according to State Representative Bennett. This bill was brought to Mr. Bennett by Andy Wheeler, Kankakee County Board Chairman, the information, and then the bill was created. And what the bill did was change the shall in 3-1006 to may.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know why that was attempted?
So there's been an ongoing dispute since 2017 regarding the duties, powers, and functions of the auditor's office. And the chairman does not believe that my expertise or my interpretation of accounting, general accounting, and the system of accounts that the statute talks about is correct. He thinks that the way the county is operating and has operated when Mr. McCarty assumed those duties as the finance director is the appropriate way to operate. So out of that and our own state's attorney asking the attorney general to differentiate between the general ledger and the general accounts, and the attorney general at the time, Lisa Madigan, did not do so, Chairman Wheeler and the allies on the board decided to pursue a legislative change to the statute so that they didn't have to comply with that section.
So generally, when somebody wants to change a statute, then they're kind of admitting that it is the way it is. They just want to change it from what it actually is.
I think that's the case. I think that they could not bring themselves to say that they were right, and so they would rather change the law. And they couldn't bring themselves to say that I was right. They would rather change the law so that they didn't have to deal with it, rather than to admit that they've been operating improperly all these years.
So that bill was tabled.
It was tabled.
So it went nowhere.
It went nowhere. That's correct.
And is there two counties that are suing, two county auditors suing, or just one? Tazewell, is Peoria suing?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So the Tazewell County Auditor is
Yes.
suing the Tazewell County Board
Yes, that's correct.
over this shall versus may, and over Section A, be the general accountant of the county and keep its general accounts.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So are you permitted to do number B in Kankakee County? Devise and install a system of financial records in the offices and divisions of the county to be followed in such offices and divisions, suitable to the needs of the office and in accordance with generally accepted principles of accounting for governmental bodies.
No, those duties have been with the finance director, which basically the county board, because it's all part of county administration. And they actually passed a policy in November of 2019. Its effective date was December 1st, 2019. And their idea of complying with that particular statute was to say that There would, each individual, now we use MIP, Abila MIP, as our accounting software. And in that policy on page 4, they said each individual has their own password, and only the system administrator can create passwords within MIP. The finance director is the current system administrator, so your system of accounts is here, and can also control which employees has security access to the various modules within the MIP system based on the responsibilities delegated by the county board through this fiscal policy and procedure manual. And then they go on to give some other items. And then on page 5, they said, based on state statute and or request by a county official, the county auditor determines if a new fund or object code is appropriate for all codes. The county auditor completes a chart of account addition or change form and submits it to the finance director. The finance director and county treasurer determine the appropriate account type, default offset accounts, and report groups as account assignments, determine cash flow and management reporting. Executed forms will be returned to the auditor's office once setup of new account is completed in the finance department. So what you have here is the county board inserting itself without any input from me in that statute.
Yes.
And redefining what that statute means.
Yeah, I don't read that in section 3-106006B.
Yes,
That's all your job, not the county's job, the
Correct.
county board's job, or the finance department's job.
that's correct.
What problems arise, I mean, if you insert something in there, can it be changed
Absolutely. So
without people knowing?
yes, there actually is a situation that is well documented. I actually sent it to our external auditors. It was last year sometime. And what happened was before the transaction was posted to the general ledger, there was a receipt that came in. So the county treasurer, a deputy in the treasurer's department, receipted the information in and went on vacation. While she was on vacation, the transaction was altered by the finance director, and then it was posted to the general ledger. I was able to see that activity take place because I was watching for it for a specific reason. And when the deputy treasurer came off of vacation, I inquired of her about her entries. And she did research and could not figure out why those entries had been changed. I knew why they had been changed, of course, and so I sent the information to the external auditor and said, I have concerns as to why there were entries in the accounting system edited without the permission of the person who did the original entry or their knowledge. And that didn't go anywhere. I sent it to the county board recently. It didn't go anywhere then either. But the ability to do that should not exist, much less outside the auditor's office, in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense for the people responsible for the inputting of the information to have it changed without them knowing.
Exactly right.
So they can change it before it is posted.
That's correct. And you would never know. And so
So it doesn't log, like after it's posted.
after it's posted,
I've
it
talked to
logs it.
several people that, do, finance and things like that, and the software they use. If something is inserted, it logs who did it and the time, date and time. But essentially the computer they did it on, then if it's later changed, it logs who changed it, the date and time computer that it was changed on. So it doesn't do that before it's posted.
Yeah, we found no evidence of that. I looked at the security transactions that I'm able to see anyway, and I saw no evidence of that software recording the change to the entries that was made by the finance director. And so my inference was that it had to be because that transaction was not posted to the general ledger yet. Once it's posted, then you have to actually reverse the entry and then repost.
Okay. So essentially, you're not receiving the information the different subjects, this is an overall. You're not receiving information that you're supposed to be receiving according to the statute in order to properly perform statutory duties.
That's exactly right.
Have you tried FOIA the information?
I have, and it's interesting you say that. On 2 occasions, I've sent FOIAs. One occasion was we had a contractor who's doing some work, and I never saw the contract. There was a bill. He was scheduled to present to the county board what the project was and all of that at the November county board meeting in 2019. But they wanted to expedite his payment for whatever reason. I asked for the contract and all of the underlying payment schedules and that. I never received it. I eventually was sent an email after I went to the PAC of the Attorney General's office that there were no documents responsive to my request. For more information, I could visit the county's website. The second FOIA I sent was regarding our Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act funds, or WIOA for short, and I have yet to receive the documents I FOIA'd under for that contract, those federal awards regarding those funds. So the county hasn't been compliant.
How long ago was that?
Oh, the initial FOIA, I believe I sent in December. And of course, I waited about a week or two, followed up, no response, sent to the Attorney General. The Attorney General then sent the county in a letter stating they needed to respond. They didn't respond to the Attorney General. So I responded to the Attorney General asking if they could intervene somehow. Then I haven't heard anything since, except they sent a letter back to me asking to supply additional information, which I did, and I haven't heard anything beyond that. And that's been probably 2 or 3 weeks now.
All right. Do you know how much the finance department costs the county and the county taxpayers in the parts that they're doing that is your statutory duty?
Oh, good question. Really, that would be, the bulk of that is salaries. And the salaries are just over $200,000 per year now.
In the finance department?
Yes.
And benefits.
Yes, and then if you add benefits into that, you're probably looking at another 40%.
On top of the 200K
Yes,
plus benefits?
correct.
Okay, so we know that when it comes to state attorneys or other county officers, there's the Supreme Court case Ashton v. Cook, and it's from decades ago, but it's never been overturned, and it's still good statutory reference or good case law reference, that they basically said that no person aside from the state legislature can expend public funds to hire a private individual to perform the statutory duties of an elected office holder. So that case was geared toward a county or county board that wanted to hire a private attorney to represent them, and the court said no, that's the state's attorney's statutory duty, and nobody other than the legislature has the power to do that. It would also apply to a sheriff, it would apply to an assessor, and I believe it would apply to a county auditor. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I had not heard of Ashton v. Cook, and that's very interesting to me because when you have an elected official who resigns and then steps into a newly created position and to perform the duties of the elected official, That is a very interesting take on that. And so I would, at first blush, without being an attorney, obviously, I would say that that would be very interesting to see how that applies to this office. And when you couple that with the Illinois statute that no county board shall alter the duties, powers, or functions of a county officer, I think that makes a very strong case that we may be in violation.
Yeah, and you know, and it's more of a hiring somebody outside of the auditor's office.
Okay,
We realize the state's attorney can hire an assistant state's attorney.
right,
You can hire assistants. County clerk can hire assistants.
right,
Those are permitted uses of public funds. But for you know, somebody else to hire an auditor or to perform the functions of an auditor, I believe that's not proper. Just like somebody shouldn't be able to hire their own supervisor of assessments to do the supervisor of assessments job. There's no provision in state law to have that done.
I would read that into the record.
Oh yeah, here it is. That's what I was trying to say. So Ashton v. Cook, here's the Supreme Court's words. The law is well settled that when the Constitution or laws of the state create an office, prescribe the duties of its incumbents, and fix his compensation, no other person or board, except by action of the legislature, has the authority to contract with private individuals to expend public funds for the purpose of performing the duties which were imposed upon such officer.
that's pretty specific language. And you know, on top of that, and so our county actually has hired the external auditors that we use for our annual audit
And that's fine.
to do agreed upon procedures to basically do internal audit work on our credit card activities.
Which is what you should be doing.
And the reason for that was the county board chairman did not want to accept the recommendations that we had and the commentary that we had regarding the issues that were happening with the credit card transactions with our previous vendor. So they went and spent $3,500 on, or almost $3,500, on the external auditors doing agreed upon procedures on those credit cards.
So they paid somebody to do your job.
In effect, yeah, if I'm understanding
When they
that
should have
statute, or that court ruling.
When they should
correctly.
have taken your response initially. What did the external auditor find?
Nothing that we disagreed with. And in the agreed upon procedures report, at the end of it, they state that, which is typical auditor language, that had we performed additional procedures, other items may have come to our attention that we otherwise are not aware of.
Yeah.
So, and I could have very easily provided the same information they provided for free, or for my salary, basically.